Hello everyone and welcome to today's spooky video. And today ghosts are going to tell me what to draw. I did a little taste of this in my 24-hour charity / 1 million subscriber celebration stream where I did a ghost tells me what to draw segment where I would hear a word and I would have to draw it, but as more words popped up, I would have to keep drawing those things, so I had to draw really, really fast. And I will do that in this video, but in the second half. That'll be like the speed round. Due to technical difficulties, there was no speed round because the app was being very slow at spitting out words, so therefore it was not a speed round. So that part is excluded. What I'm going to do in the first half is assemble a list of words from the ghosts, and then interpret what that could all mean and how that could fit into an illustration and do one big illustration. Now you're probably thinking, how are we going to communicate with these ghosts? I do not have a Ouija board. I do not dabble in that kind of freaky stuff, but I do like to use ghost hunting apps to talk to ghosts. It's just for fun, it's just for entertainment, and I just enjoy using these apps. There's one app I really like using, but I'm not going to use it in today's video because it's just too noisy, but it's called GBV2 Ghost Box, and it sounds like this. So I'm currently editing this video, and at the time I was recording, I did not catch those words. It sounds like it says, "Hi, who's this?" I mean, it could be interpreted in many different ways, but that's what I hear, and oh my god. What I like about it is you get frequent responses, and the words are hard to understand, so it's kind of up to your own interpretation as to what's being said. You can be like, "Ooh, did they just say my name? Whoa," and it gets all crazy because different people hear different things. But that's not the app I'm going to be using because of that background noise. It's just too loud. Plus the whole interpreting words things, I want a concrete list of words. The app I'm using today is called Ghost Hunter M2. And it has different functions, but one of them is an EVP function. So here's what it looks like. I have it on my iPad, and you're supposed to let it sit and calibrate for a while until you get these 3 flashing blue dots, and that's when you know it's ready and correct. So I've had it sitting here. Oh, it's already saying words, but we're gonna ignore that for now. It's been sitting here, it's calibrated, and so we can dive into this and start writing down all the words it says. If it gives me too many people's names, I might cross those off my list, but I'm gonna do my best to use what it gives me. Okay, let's begin. Starting now. I'm gonna write down whatever words come up on this screen. I will have to turn the volume up because it does speak the words aloud, which is kind of creepy. I'm not sure what volume is best, but we'll figure it out. Hello, ghosts of the house. By the way, I think this room is the creepiest room in the entire house, and it's the cutest decorated one, but it's still the creepiest. Not because I have dolls, but it's just, I don't know, I got creepy vibes since we moved in. There's also a door behind my desk, and I don't like that. Is there anyone here with us tonight? I will have to cut out pauses because it takes a while for it to spit out words. Sometimes they're back to back, other times it takes a couple minutes between words, so I will have to splice the footage a lot. Is anyone here? Teresa, okay. Whoa. So I guess Teresa will be telling us what to draw. I'm gonna write down Teresa so I don't forget. Teresa, just speak freely. Let me know what I should draw.
Like.
I'm just gonna write the words down. I'll just rearrange things in the meantime. Teresa, I should draw stuff like what? Maybe that's why she said like. Draw stuff like, it could be related to your life, Teresa. Did you have a job?
50s.
Okay. So it was in the 50s. It's like, I know it's not real, I know it's just an app, but I get freaked out anyway. And that's the whole fun of it. What happened in the 50s?
November.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So it was the 50s in November. So was it cold? Was it snowy? Just describe what it was like to me. Teresa, what can you tell me about November? Teresa's not very talkative. This is going to be a slow night. Teresa, did something happen in November in the 50s? Is there anyone else here who can tell me what happened? It's possible that it wasn't 50s, the decade, but maybe Teresa, in terms of her age, she was in her 50s. Teresa, when were you alive?
Roof.
It's just so eerie every time it says a word. My heart just skips. Roof. What happened with the roof?
Follow. Mine.
Follow. Mayan. Following the Mayans. Remember when the Mayans predicted the
Fuel.
Fuel. The end of the world. Probably shouldn't be interpreting it as I go, but I mean, it's gonna make it more exciting. I thought of like someone jumping off a roof or something. Fuel like gasoline? Like a fire? And then they're on the roof trying to save themselves? Was there a fire?
Ernest.
Ernest. Did Ernest do something?
Motorcycle.
Fuel and motorcycle go together. And potentially follow and motorcycle.
Metal.
Metal. Motorcycle, metal. Was there an accident? I shouldn't ask yes or no questions because it rarely answers yes or no. If there was an accident, tell me what happened. This is taking so long. I feel like I should just wait for it to spit up a whole list of words without really prompting it with anything. I mean, where's the fun in that? But we need to get to the art. I'm just gonna rip off what the ghost has been saying. We'll interpret that as a get to know you kind of segment, like who's the ghost? Is it Teresa? Is it Ernest? Whatever. And now let's move into things I should draw. I'm gonna fall asleep. I need you to spit out a bunch of different words of things I should draw, things I should incorporate into my art. I'm just gonna cut out the gaps and write down what this says.
Police. Round. Head.
Ooh, this could be really dark.
Boat. Money. Wrath. Open. Discuss. Play.
Okay, so we probably have enough words here. We have police, drown, head, boat, money, breath, opened, discuss, and play. These are very interesting words because words like boat and breath and drown, those all go together. Thank you very much for providing these words for us, and I hope you have a good night. Goodbye. There's the word police. If someone were to drown, the police would be involved. There's also the word money. Was someone purposely killed for money? Maybe their head was held underwater. Oh my God. Maybe they were dismembered. I found it very interesting that it said the word opened and discussed together because it made me think of the phrase open discussion or just having an open discussion. Then the word play doesn't fit in as much, but it was also the last word and I could have stopped before that, but we have to include it because it's on the list. Opened could also refer to like the police opened an investigation and they had a discussion as to what happened, as to how things played out. Maybe there was a kid playing in a swimming pool with a toy boat, but he somehow hit his head and drowned and opened his mouth underwater and therefore couldn't breathe, like took an underwater breath and therefore drowned and died. But how does money come into this? Maybe the boat was smuggling in some product that was worth money. Like that's how they're going to make money, was by smuggling stuff in on the boat. But it turns out one of the parties involved was an undercover police officer and they found out it was a cop and they had to kill him off by drowning him. They hold his head underwater. He can't breathe. he opened his mouth underwater. The word discuss is just related to how they were talking and found out he was a police officer, whatever. It somehow came to light through their discussions. And then they had to play dumb like they didn't know where he was. But how does that make for an interesting drawing? I'm going to have to brainstorm a bit and come up with an idea. So now let's finally jump into the art. So my last interpretation of the words was probably the most accurate to what I ended up doing, and it just made me think of some kind of action movie. So I thought, hey, why not make it look like an action movie poster? Because there's so much going on with that interpretation that I'd almost have to draw a series of images to get it all across. So I thought, why not just make like a movie poster? And so I did that classic look where it's like, oh, stacked heads that get smaller as it gets to the top. And I put the boat in the front and just sketched some characters. I don't have specific backstories for any of them. It's all just loosely based off the words, which is kind of fun because then you can interpret it your own way. And so there are two men, one of which is a police officer, one has sunglasses. Who is he? Is he a shady character? Who knows? And then there is a girl with curly hair. And then I guess there's technically one more character you'll see pop up in the background, but I'll talk about him in a second. So I'm just sketching it in Procreate because I knew I was going to be repositioning all these heads and resizing them and all whatnot. So I thought, okay, drawing this on regular piece of paper would be kind of a nightmare. Like, it's doable, but it'll be a lot easier digitally. So I sketched it on my iPad and then I just printed it out and traced it onto my cardstock. So then I added that shady looking character to the background, and I was just trying to fill the space and I just made him very generic. But then I started to think he looked a little too much like the hash slinging slasher from SpongeBob, and I could not unsee it, especially once I did my little color comp in Photoshop just to plan out the color scheme. I was like, this looks too much like the hash slinging slasher. Plus, for the color scheme, I just Googled color palette ideas or something like that, and some website came up and I found one that was a nautical theme, and I was like, okay, that looks really good. You know, it's kind of like the classic white and blue, but the white's more of like an off-white kind of yellow, and then of course red, that's very nautical as well. And that's when it really started hitting me as I was coloring it all in. I was like, this looks just like the hash slinging slasher. And then I also thought of this SpongeBob poster that I got recently. I got it from my friends. I've had it for maybe a couple weeks now, and I haven't hung it up yet because I need to get a frame for it. But I was like, wait, what does that poster look like again? And so I Googled it and I was like, oh my God, I swear there must have been some kind of subconscious inspiration for this, because one, the hash slinging slasher dude in the background, but two, the color palette is also very similar, which I guess is not that surprising because they're both nautical themed, and SpongeBob's yellow, and then there's also reddish colors like with Patrick and whatnot, and blue for Squidward. Like, it makes sense. But it was just like, okay, what, we need to change this a little bit. So I ended up tweaking the guy in the back a little bit by adding a hat, which you will see later. Now, to give it more of that movie poster feel, I wanted to really limit the color palette. Not that that's a movie poster thing necessarily, but I just thought it would look cool and add to the whole look of it. And so I really tried sticking to just my basic color. So I have a reddish orange and yellow and then blue, and then there's also a darker blue as well. And I added a bit of brown too. But I wanted to use those colors everywhere. So for example, the skin on these two characters is very yellow and with blue shading, because I wanted blue shading throughout everything to tie it all together. But it's also very dramatic and very obvious blue and not super well blended. I mean, it's still fairly blended, but I just want it to be very, what's the word I'm looking for, like dramatic, very color blocky, bold. Is that the term I'm looking for? Maybe. Here's where I started introducing the brown because I didn't want to use one of the existing colors. I just thought there needs to be one more color added in here, but the brown is fairly neutral and it's not a very saturated brown, I guess. It's kind of dull, and so I thought it wouldn't compete too much with the rest of the colors. Those are my trusty E70 browns, are my favorite browns to use. For the police officer, I decided to give him a darker skin tone, and that was another chance to use that same brown because I didn't want there to be only one section of brown in the entire piece. I like to sort of balance it out and have a bit here and there. Like, for example, there's a lot of red at the top with the girl's hair and then the eyes on the creepy character, and so I made the collared shirt of the guy with sunglasses also have the bit of that orange in there. And I knew I'd be adding more red also to the corner with the sailboat because it's gonna be adding some blood. I mean, it's red blood, but I made it a little orangey. And so again, you can see me using some yellow highlights there. By the way, the lighting is not consistent, like the light angle between both halves, because it's not really a scene where they're actually there. It's a composite of a bunch of different faces slapped together. So my thought is that the people who are looking to the left have light coming from the left, and people looking to the right have a light coming from the right. And I just thought that would be a nice look. So that was intentional. If you're like, what's the light source? There's not really a definitive one because it's a composite of several images. When I do these voiceovers, when I'm looking at myself coloring a particular part of the drawing, I can remember what I was watching while I was coloring this. And at the time I was listening to the H3 podcast, and all I can think of while I'm watching the police's hat get colored in is like bidets and butt wipes. Like, that's all I can think of because of the H3 podcast. The memories are coming flooding back, and cupping your fart in your hand and sniffing it. God, no. Another little random note about this drawing is that I thought the name of the movie could be called Foul Play. That's probably an existing movie title. I don't know. And it's kind of cheesy and generic. And then I thought, hey, wait, one of the words on the list was play, so that helps tie that in. Haha. Also, another weird connection is that one of the words was head, and these are a bunch of heads. Ha ha. Like, not intentional, but it just kind of worked out that way. But I didn't want to put the title of the movie on here. I did consider it, and I thought, well, based on how I drew it, it doesn't really fit unless I add a little bit of extra space on the top and bottom. But I didn't want to do that. I just thought it looked good the way it was, and I didn't want to add the title. Plus, it's kind of a cheesy title, so maybe it's best to leave it off the drawing. I did want to keep up with the spooky atmosphere that I had at the beginning of the video, but it just didn't really work out because you wouldn't be able to see the colors that well in the art. So when I was sketching, the light was a bit dim, and I had some candles initially, and then I zoomed in and I was like, yeah, you know, the rest of the video is just gonna have to be bright so that you can clearly see everything. Now, for the fun part. The blood splatters! I was considering using my Copic airbrush system, but I wanted some really big globs, so I thought, why not just mix some paint? I made it a slightly orangey red just to play off all the orangey tones in the drawing, and then I just watered it down a bit and used a paintbrush to splatter on globs of paint, and I think it looks really cool. Especially here where it's still wet, it looks really neat. It gives it a bit of a 3D element. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the little ghost hunt and having a ghost tell me what to draw. Ooh. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.